Hello everyone, welcome back. It's Space Engineers Plus Me, episode 83. I'm Enigmius, and today we're almost done with this whole setup. We've been working hard trying to get those final little details taken care of, the things that were giving us kind of problems that we saw in the last episode, where things were mostly working but not quite as well as we need them to in order to be able to say the system is reliable. I've done a handful of tests, and there's really not much point demonstrating at this point because it would just look exactly like the previous episode and just involve a lot more work loading and resetting and doing all this other stuff. So I would rather do a demonstration when the whole system is assembled and working than another demonstration like we did last time. But we're going to quickly go over a couple of the problems that we had in the last episode and how we've approached them so that hopefully they won't be problems anymore. Like I say, early testing seems to indicate that we've got it taken care of. Now, one of the issues we had, starting in no particular order, is that the connectors on the tether and the inner ring were basically nose to nose with one another, but they weren't locked. And that's kind of a problem when we're talking about trying to manage weight, trying to get materials off the bore head, through the tether, through the rings, and into the ship itself where we can store it and start processing it. But also that whole issue of things getting backed up in the drill head, and then the drills eventually will stop extracting ore. They'll just basically go around and break everything up, but they won't actually pick any of it up. It's kind of a disaster to have that blockage. So what I found that seems to be working for now is I created a 1-second pause between the time the connector on the inner ring is turned on and the time that it's locked. I've encountered that difficulty in the past with landing gears and merge blocks as well, when we're swapping around merge blocks and landing gears to manage what's holding what in what place so that we can use grinders and welders properly. Is that if you try and use a merge block right after you've done something with a landing gear or vice versa, quite often it won't work because things are kind of in a little bit of a state of flux for a fraction of a second. If you give them a 1-second pause between actions, they work much more consistently and reliably. So that's what we've been doing, and that's what I did with the connectors here. And it's just basically adding an extra timer block with a 1-second delay before it starts. And all that block does in this case is it waits that 1 second and then it locks the connectors. And that's the last one in the chain. So it doesn't have to do anything more clever than that. Seems to be the solution we were looking for. The other issue that we had is that the grinders were having a hard time clearing away all the blocks in the top of the tether here that are necessary for holding the tether and preventing it from just sliding right through the middle of the inner ring. The biggest issue with that, as I mentioned in the last episode, is if you've got blocks flying off, it looks kind of funny and it's not a big deal, but if they're not getting clear of the work area, they're just kind of hanging around here, they're going to prevent the new blocks from being welded properly, which can be catastrophic if the system is relying on these blocks being there and they're not, because something was in the way of the welders. So we needed to address that. And the way that I addressed it was twofold. One was I modified the top of the tether a little bit. There used to be a 45-degree slope in this area here, just mostly for looks, kind of connecting that way. And the same thing over there, kind of going 45 degrees down that way. Getting rid of those and then adding an extra grinder right in the pocket that we created on both sides seems to have done a good job of making sure that things are taken care of before the next step in the chain kind of advances, which is basically welding everything together. So it's, again, early testing suggests that we're in good shape. Next episode, expect to see this whole system complete and in operation. That's kind of the goal. So if you're a little frustrated that I don't have anything fun and exciting to show you just yet, it's all going to be in the next episode. And that's because I put a bunch of time into the bore head, which is this guy down here. I mentioned it was going to be quite a bit different from the ones that we've used in the past. And there were a number of challenges with that simple wedge design that we had that I wanted to at least try and overcome. That was kind of the goal, of trying to deal with it. First of all, if you haven't seen my previous bore heads, they tend to be pretty sharp angles like that. And they've got a tip, and then they kind of, as they move away from the tip, they also move up. And the whole idea is the tip goes in first and then the other guys. And then what happens is that as you're going down, material that one drill head is drilling is rolling down the hill to the other drill heads, where it eventually gets picked up, worst case scenario, at the bottom by the center drill head. and you don't get as much wastage in terms of materials that get left behind by the drill heads that then despawn long before you ever get back around to pick them up. That's something that I wanted to address. And again, it's just getting the most out of the area that you're mining from instead of just wasting a third of it because it just despawns before you have a chance to pick it up. So what I did here is, instead of that aggressive wedge, it's actually kind of a soft curve, sort of like this. But in addition to that, it's not just a straight line like we've had before. It's got, from the center, kind of a soft curve out this way and a soft curve out this way. So it doesn't take long once the first drill heads start going into the material for the rest of the drill heads to also be in the material. It's specifically designed that way. It does have kind of a slope starting on the outer edges, working down this way, so that a lot of the material will have an opportunity to kind of roll down and be picked up by other drill heads as it passes them by. And also the curve means that once you're situated in the material, these guys up here on the farthest edge are the first ones to start releasing material to be picked up, and then it all kind of continues down this way. So this is the leading edge. And then as you move towards the center, everything is just slowly moving back towards the center point here. It may not make a ton of sense the way that we're looking at it and the way that I'm describing it now. It is very experimental. It was a case of, yeah, we could do a really simple duplication of everything that we've done before, or we could try and do something a little bit different and see if there's not a better way of doing things. So I'm kind of hopeful to see how it's going to work out. Very important to note is these guys here on the side aren't just for an interesting way to orient the outer edge. These guys are to help make sure that if there's any kind of drift in the mining operation, either the ship drifts on the legs, or there's so many different things that can change that could be problematic. And these guys are there to kind of help make sure that the drill head itself doesn't bind up on the terrain, because the location of the hole has changed as you've been mining. So these are pretty important. This is one thing that I learned from the Atlas with the track ship going back and forth, is that the ship shifted and then everything else kind of went wonky, and it was difficult to make things work the way that it was supposed to. So that was kind of a thing. Now the other thing is that this is actually a fully functional ship all by itself. We did it with the track ship, or sorry, the gondola track ship, whatever you want to. No, yeah, it would be the gondola. It would be the drill ship that I'm talking about, where it was a fully functional ship intended so that you could fly it around independently and get it lined up where it needs to go. I liked that idea in a borehead, especially something that we might want to be able to remove when we want to move the ship, or just for whatever reason get it out of the way. So we've duplicated that thing here. It's designed specifically to be light enough that hopefully when we get everything up and running and tested, one atmospheric thruster or one large ion thruster should be enough to give it lift, and then we've got some small ion thrusters, which would be plenty to give it the mobility that we need to move it around. And then up here, we've got the interface with the tether. We've got a merge block and a connector, just like the tether has under here. Can't really see it from this angle. You can see the merge block, and behind it is a connector. So the whole idea is that this guy is going to merge with the tether with the merge block, and then connect with the connector and lock and transfer all the materials that it picks up through the tether and out into the ship. So very simple design. Just like we did with our previous bore heads, we're not going to be using the rotor for torque to turn it. We're going to be using gyros set to override, and basically those are going to be the rotational force that we need to keep the drill head moving. And the reason why I do that, the reason why I like that so much, is because it's just a little bit of peace of mind that if for whatever reason the drill head can't go as fast as it would go if there was no resistance whatsoever, I don't have to worry about the rotor exploding because it's mad at me that it can't go at the speed it wants to go. It'll just slow down, and the drills will clear out what they need to clear out, and then it'll move on. Very simple, straightforward design that I've always liked in the previous bore heads I've done, so that's what we're going to duplicate here and carry on. So the next episode, this guy is going to be attached to that guy. The rings of the autogyro are going to be released. Right now the inner ring rotors are released, and that's how it's been kind of spinning freely. We're going to release those properly. We're going to set up the ship, which appears to be on quite a slant, I have to say. I'm guessing that if we actually hop back into the ship, we would find that this is level and it's just the terrain that makes it look like it's slanted. Something like that. The whole idea with this, the original plan is I was hoping that maybe we would be able to fly this through this gap here. It's not really practical. So we've got this ship here that does a pretty good job of hovering. It's got enough thrusters that it can hover. It's basically going to hover above the spot where you plan to mine, and then you can fly this guy underneath, hook it up, lower it, start mining. When you're ready to move, if you have to, you can release the bore head, relocate whatever you need to relocate. Simple and straightforward. I'm hoping that it's going to be a pretty slick mining interface that'll allow us to move around and do what we need to do without the hassles that destroyed our Mantis mining ship with the chained pistons and all that other stuff. So again, next episode probably be the overall project unveil. We're going to show this whole thing in action. I still have to finish setting up the inventory sorting system inside. It's just everything's labeled. I just have to set it all up so that everything goes where it's supposed to go and is packaged the way that it's supposed to. And then other than that, the ship is basically done. We were going to do a little bit more sculpting up there, but for a ship this size and the number of episodes that we put into it, that's a pretty quick build. If you want to be notified about the next episode, as always, you can subscribe to my channel. You can follow me on social media. Links for social media always in the information box below the video. Feel free to leave your comment. Thanks for watching, guys, and take care.